This is Unleash the Power of Modular Flows for Agentforce. And just a reminder, Salesforce is a publicly traded company, so please base your purchasing decisions on current products and services. And I'd like to take a moment to thank you for coming to the session. I know it's day 2 of the conference in the afternoon, so thank you for coming. And for those watching on video on demand, thanks for watching. So I'm Jennifer Lee, Lead Admin Evangelist, and I am at Agent Blazer. And I'm thrilled to share with you something that's really groundbreaking for Agentforce. And this is unleashing the power of modular flows. So here's our agenda. We're going to talk about what modular design is and the benefits of it. Then we're going to build smarter with modular flows with 3 scenarios. Then we're going to talk about how to empower Agentforce for success using reusable, maintainable modular flows. And lastly, we're going to talk about sharing tips for getting started with modular design. So why modular design? What is it? Now this slide really illustrates the power of modular design. It first starts off with the building blocks, right? These are small pieces of components or modules in your system, and they work well on their own. But the power, the magic really comes in when you start combining them with other components. Now that second image there shows the beginning of taking those modules and then combining them to start building something a little bit more complex. And then the third image is the results, a TDX. So you basically took those pre-built, well-defined modulars or components, put them together to build something that is truly impressive and more complex than those singular, smaller building blocks. And that really is the essence of modular design, right? The end goal is you want to build something that is efficient, maintainable, more sustainable. And it makes projects easier to manage and then grow over time as well. So don't repeat yourself, is a fundamental principle in software design. And it aims to reduce code duplication. Now, this is a fundamental principle that applies to us flow builders as well, right? How many times have you built a flow and then later on down the line, you have that similar logic, and then you went and copy and pasted it over here, right? You basically repeated yourself. And that's a recipe for disaster, because ultimately, if you need to make a change to that logic in the future, you're going to need to hunt down every single instance of that copy and then make a change to it. Now that's tedious, error-prone, and frankly, a huge waste of time. So Dry really fixes that, right? So there are 3 major benefits of Dry. First, it reduces your maintenance because you're only maintaining that component, that module, in one place, and then reusing it in multiple places. So you're really cutting down the maintenance costs because you're only making that change in one place versus if you had 5 copies of the thing, you needed to make a change. You're making the change 5 times, testing it 5 times, deploying it 5 times. So it really increases the overall maintenance. And the idea behind modular design is you're no longer building these monolithic flows, you're building smaller pieces that perform specific functions. So therefore, they're going to be smaller in design, they're going to be more concise, well-defined, and you should be able to take a look and see the logic at a glance, and it's not this big, huge thing. And Dry increases your overall reliability because you don't have those multiple copies lying around, so therefore it reduces the inconsistencies and bugs. Again, you're maintaining it in one place, the source is in one place, so ultimately it just makes it better. So when you're building flows, keep Dry in mind. It's not just a best practice, but it's a way of building solutions that are really efficient, maintainable, and sustainable. And the best part is you're working smarter, not harder, right? You're only maintaining it once, and then reusing it over and over again. So let's talk about building smarter with modular flows with 3 examples. Now, meet Mochi Cupcakes. They're an old school cupcake shop, and they take their cupcake orders over the phone. But they have a modern challenge. They need quick access to the customer's past orders across multiple touch points, whether it's during the cupcake order process, while viewing the customer's record, or engaging with their AI agent. The solution is a powerful single modular flow, auto-launch flow, that retrieves the cupcake orders, the most recent cupcake orders. And this is going to be used in 2 screen flows as well as an AI agent. So the first scenario is the cupcake order process. And the Mochi reps are on the phone with the customer making that cupcake order. So we're going to select Haley Atwood as the customer. And right there, we were quickly able to retrieve her most recent cupcake orders and her largest past cupcake orders. And this is done in a flow. So let's take a look at that screen flow real quick. And we're going to go into that screen element. And here we configured it to use a screen action that calls an auto-launch flow called retrieve cupcake orders. And here we're passing the record ID was the customer that we selected. And then we have outputs that we're receiving as a result. So let's take a look at that auto-launch flow. All right, and then let's step through that real quick. There it is, okay. So we're gonna get the existing customer information, the contact information with the record ID that's passed from our screen flow. Then we're stopping at the first record found. Then we're taking that customer information from the get records and we're adding it to a variable called var contact record for use in our screen flow. Next step is we're getting cupcake orders. And here on the cupcake order object, where the customer equals that contact. And we're taking all the records found. Then we're taking those records from that get records and we're adding it to a record collection variable that will be used in our screen flow. Next, we're doing a sort using the cupcake orders that we got in that get records. We're sorting it by total number of cupcakes descending order, and secondarily, the date, time, order desired by descending order. And we're storing all the records that we find. Then we have an assignment. So we basically took those sorted cupcakes from that previous step there, and we're adding it to a separate record collection variable that will be used in our screen flow. And lastly, we have another sort that we're doing using the cupcake orders from that first get cupcakes, get records, and we're sorting it by date, time, order desired by descending order. We're getting all the records, but setting it to 5. And then we're taking that sorted cupcake orders from that previous step and adding it to a separate collection variable, again, for use in our screen flow. So taking a look at the variables, we have the contact record information available for output. So again, sending it back to our screen flow. And then the 3 different record collections for the cupcakes are all set for available for output. So it will be available for use in that screen flow. All right. So let's move on to scenario 2. Which is a rep viewing a customer's record and needing access to their cupcake order information. So here we're on Haley Atwood's contact record, and we're a rep on the phone with her, and we're able to see the order information, the 5 most recent, over to the side. It's an embedded screen flow on the contact lightning record page. So let's take a look at that screen flow. And let's step through it. So here we're doing a get records on the cupcake order object, where the customer equals the record ID that was passed from the contact lightning record page. And we're sorting it by date, time, order desired by, descending order, all the records up to 5 records. And that's a new feature in Spring. Then we're doing a loop, and I have a summary text template that I'm adding to a variable to show on the screen flow, the screen element. So we're doing a loop for all the 5 cupcake orders, and then we're showing that var order summary on the screen. And that's shown on that Lightning record page. So here for the summary text template, I'm stamping it with the order date, order summary, and total cost for each of the cupcake orders. All right. So now moving on to the third scenario, which is the rep working with the Mochi Cupcakes AI agent. And here we're in Agent Builder, and this is a tool where you use to modify and tweak your agents. And I've already configured a topic called Cupcake Order and Class Recommendations that has a handful of instructions and some actions. So let's test out our agent, and we're going to ask it to recommend a cupcake order for Haley Atwood based on her past cupcake orders. And so the agent is working its magic, thinking things through, figuring it out. And it comes back with a response. So let's take a look at that real quick. We see that based on Haley's past cupcake orders, that it recommends 3 different cupcakes, as well as an over-the-top cupcake for her. So let's take a look at the planner that steps through what the agent did behind the scenes. So that's this middle panel here. So we see that it selected the cupcake order and class recommendations topic that has 4 instructions and 7 actions. It used the flow action retrieve contact ID, where it passed in Haley's Atwood's name and got the ID. And then it used the prompt template action called Mochi Cupcake Recommendations. So here's that prompt template. And it has instructions, and we're pulling in the name of the contact, as well as 2 flows to ground the prompt with data. So let's take a look at the flows that we have. So this is retrieve most recent 5 orders. This is a template triggered prompt flow. We're doing a get records on the cupcake orders, where the customer equals $ input, which is a global variable that's new to a prompt template, and it selected the contact object, which is our related entity, and specifically the contact ID. Then it sorted the records by date, time, order desired by, descending order, and we took all the records up to a maximum of 5. Then we performed a loop, so for all of the 5 records, it added prompt instructions. And for the prompt instructions, we specifically took the cupcake order summary field from the cupcake order. All right, so when you're coming up with modular design, you need to identify common elements to figure out what you should build as something that's modular. So here are side by side the 3 flows that I walked through representing the 3 different scenarios that we have. And in looking at the 3, the commonalities is that we are getting cupcake orders, and then in some cases we're sorting them multiple times or just a single sort. So in the first one, we have 6 elements that involve the getting the cupcakes and sorting them, and the other 2 have the single get records with the sort within it. And then again, that's new in Spring 25. So as a result, we came up with a single modular flow called get and sort cupcakes. Again, the idea behind modular flows is that you're not repeating yourself. So the function of that modular flow is to get cupcakes and do all the sorting. So let's step through this auto launch flow and take a look at what it does. So we're doing that get cupcake orders, where the customer equals the var contact ID that will be passed from whatever that main component is that invoked the flow. And we're storing all the records. Then we're doing an assignment where we're taking all those cupcakes from the get record and storing in a separate record collection variable for use back in the main component. Then we're doing a sort. So we're taking the cupcakes from that get records and we're sorting it by total number of cupcakes descending, and then secondarily a date, time, order desired by descending order, and we're taking all those records. And then we're doing an assignment from that sort that we just did to a separate record collection for anyone that needs to look for sorted cupcakes by total number. And then we're doing another different sort by 5 most recent. So we're again taking those cupcakes from that get records and we're sorting it by date, time, order desired by descending order. And this time, we're only taking the 5 cupcakes. So you have different scenarios of those record collections that you can use in other flows. But it's all being managed in the one place. So again, if you ever need to make a change, it's all managed in that one place. You don't have to go all over the place to make those changes. So here the key is available for input. We're looking for the contact ID in order to do the get records for the cupcake orders. And all the different sorts of the cupcakes collections are available for output for use in the main component, whatever called the modular flow, whether it's a flow, apex, or an agent. All right. So the keys to modular design success are 3. Data types, inputs, and outputs matter. So data types need to match. So the main component, whatever invokes that modular flow, right? Whether it's flow, apex, an agent, whatever that data type is that you're sending over into the modular flow, those data types need to match. You can't have a record on one end and a number on the other end. That's not going to work. But text to text works. Now, if you're using records, even if it's the same object, you can't have a record, a single record on one end and a record collection. That's not going to work. But you can have a record of the same object and a record of the same object on the receiving end, or a record collection and record collection. And then secondarily, inputs and outputs matter. So in your main component, if you're looking to send in a contact ID into your modular flow for then it to take action on, in your modular flow, that contact ID variable needs to be available for input. You're basically opening it up to receive the data in order to do something with it. And then if you're looking for information to be available in the thing that invoked the modular flow, right, coming outwards, that variable in the modular flows needs to be available for output in order for it to send it outside of the flow. So those pieces are really important to make it all work. So here's that original scenario 1 cupcake order process. And here's the new and improved flow. So it's really impressive when you take that 6 and then you replaced it with the modular flow or the subflow, right? It makes for a real, more condensed, easily to review design. Now, scenario 2 is viewing it on the cupcake, on the customer record, and the get records was replaced by the modular flow, the get records with the sorting within it. And then same thing with the Mochi Cupcakes AI agent, the get records was replaced by the modular flow. Before spring 25, my presentation had the get records and the sort, so it looked prettier than it does now, more impressive. But let's take a look at the differences between the original and improved design. So again, this was the first scenario 1, where we're during the cupcake order process. So again, just to refresh your memory, what we're doing here is we're getting information about the contact. We're storing the contact information in a variable. We're getting the cupcake information, all the cupcakes associated with that contact. We're storing it in a variable. Then we're doing a sort by total number of cupcakes, and we're storing that sort in a separate record collection. And then we're doing another sort. Wait for the video to catch up. And then secondarily, we're doing another sort of the most recent cupcake orders by date, time, desired by, and we're storing that in a separate collection. So we'll wait for the video to catch up. All right, and then let's then take a look at the new and improved modular flow. And here we took the 6 and we collapsed it into 3 elements. So this is our modular flow, get and sort cupcake orders. We're passing over the record ID into our modular flow. And then on the way out for output, we have 3 different collections that we are getting from that modular flow for use in our main flow. So then we're going to hop over to our next scenario. So this is just showing that the record ID is available for input to be sent into our flow, and then the sorted record collections are all set to available for output. Now let's hop over to our second scenario, which is the viewing on the contact record. So here again, we're doing a get records of the cupcakes. We're looping through, and then we're stamping the text template with the order summary, order date, and another piece of information. And then we're showing it in the screen element. So now let's take a look at the new improved flow. And here we're replacing that get records that had the sorting of the cupcakes with the modular flow, get and sort cupcake orders. We're passing over the record ID from the main flow into that subflow. And then this time, we're only getting, for this instance, we're only grabbing the sorted cupcake order record collection. Again, we're doing the loop, we're adding the text template, and then we're showing the information on the screen element. So if we hop over to the resource manager, we'll see the record ID is set for available for input, and the sorted cupcakes is there as well. So on to the third scenario, and this is the one that's used in our AI agent. Here again, we're retrieving the cupcake orders, sorting them by the 5 most recent. Then we're doing a loop through, and we're adding to our prompt instructions. So in the new and improved flow, we're replacing that get records with an auto launch flow. And again, we're passing the contact ID, this time from our prompt template for our selected object, the contact ID. And then in this case, we only care about one of the 3 available sorts, and that's the sorted cupcake order collection. So it's looping through, and then it's doing the add prompt instructions. And then lastly, I'm going to show you that they have the sorted cupcake order collection there. All right, so now let's talk about empowering Agentforce for success. So Mochi Cupcakes has requirements for its AI agent, and it would like it to perform these 4 high-level tasks: recommend classes, recommend cupcakes for customers with a dietary restriction, and recommend cupcakes and classes. And underneath each high-level task are high-level actions for the agent to take action on. Now, when we take a look across all 4 tasks, we can identify some commonality between them. So they all have the need to identify the customer. Then some of them have the need to retrieve past orders and then recommend the cupcake order. And then we have 2 of them that need to retrieve the enrollments of the customer and then recommend classes. So ultimately, this translates into these actions for the agent. So we're going to use a flow to retrieve the contact ID. We're going to use another flow to retrieve the cupcake order, and then 3 prompt templates for the Mochi cupcake recommendations, Mochi class recommendations, and Mochi dietary restriction cupcake recommendations. And the prompt templates also have flows within them. So the way that an agent works in Agentforce is it has available to it a library of actions. And in this case, we have the ability to access 1 to 20 actions. So when you're in the agent and you're providing a user utterance, in this case, recommend classes for Haley Atwood, the Atlas reasoning engine determines what actions from the available library that it needs to take in order to respond to that utterance. And in this case, it used action 17 and action 2, retrieve contact ID and Mochi class recommendations. Now this other utterance is recommend a cupcake order for Haley Atwood. And in this case, it decided it needed 3 actions: retrieve contact ID, retrieve cupcake orders, and Mochi cupcake recommendations. Now the third utterance, recommend cupcakes for Haley Atwood that are vegan and soy-free, so these are the dietary restrictions. The agent determined it needed 2 actions, 1 to retrieve a contact ID, and then another Mochi's dietary restriction cupcake orders. And then for our last utterance, recommend cupcakes and classes for Haley Atwood, the agent determined it needed 3 actions: retrieve contact ID, Mochi cupcake recommendations, and Mochi class recommendations. So let's take a look at this in Agent Builder. And we're going to test out these 4 high-level tasks. In the first piece, we're going to ask it to recommend classes for Haley Atwood. So it came back with a response. It knew that Haley was already enrolled in 2 classes, so it's not going to offer those, recommend other classes that overlap with those. So let's take a look at the planner to see what the agent did. And it selected our cupcake order and class recommendations. It invoked the retrieve contact ID, where it passed over Haley Atwood's name and got the contact ID. And then it used the prompt action Mochi class recommendation. Now let's go to the next scenario. And we're going to ask it to recommend a cupcake order for Haley Atwood based on her past cupcake orders. All right, so now let's take a look at the response. The agent gave a recap of Haley Atwood's past cupcake orders, which looks delicious. And based on those preferences, it recommended 3 cupcakes and an over-the-top cupcake. So again, let's take a look at the planner to see what the agent did. So it selected the Mochi order and class recommendations topic. Again, we've seen this before, the retrieve contact ID flow action. It then used another flow action, retrieve cupcake orders, and then Mochi cupcake recommendations, which is a prompt template agent action. Now our third utterance is recommend a cupcake order for Haley Atwood that is vegan and soy-free. So that recommendation should be different than the one that we just saw. And here it is. It's 3 that meet the criteria with those dietary restrictions. So again, we selected that same topic. You see we're using that same retrieve contact ID flow action. And then this time we use a prompt template called Mochi's dietary restrictions cupcake recommendations. All right, and then for the final prompt, recommend cupcakes and classes for Haley Atwood. What you see here is it recommended 3 cupcakes based on her past orders. So similar to what we've already seen before with the over-the-top cupcake. And then it noted she's enrolled in these 2 classes, so we're going to recommend these future classes to take. So again, it selected that same topic. And you'll see here that same flow action was used, retrieve contact ID. We used emoji cupcake recommendations, which you saw earlier. And then it also used emoji class recommendations, which you saw from an earlier utterance as well. So this is the retrieve contact ID that you saw across all 4. And what it does is it's getting the contact, using the contact name that was passed from the agent, and stopping at the first record found. Then in our variable, we're taking the contact ID and we're assigning it to a variable var contact ID, which will be available for our agent to then use in the other actions. And then we're also setting a message in a variable var message that will also be available in our agent for use. And the text template message just says, thank you, I found whatever the contact's name's record. And then we have the var contact ID, which is available for output. Again, the flow is sending it back to the agent for use. And the var contact name was what the agent was sending into our flow to get the contact ID. So it's set to available for input. And the var message is set to available for output because we're making it available in our agent. So let's talk about tips to getting started for modular design. I want you to start small and simple. Pick a really simple use case. It could be something like that retrieve contact ID, so small, right? And really focus on those core components and what is reusable. Don't try to do modular design of everything from the beginning, right? Just baby steps, get used to it. And I also want you to spend time, prioritizing that upfront design. So when you're thinking about modular design, you're not just getting the requirements and going into Flow Builder and building this monolithic flow. Take some time to say, okay, does it make sense for me to chunk out certain pieces because they might be reusable for other things? And really think of these as like small functions. Like our modular flow from before did the function of getting cupcake orders and doing all the different types of sorts, right? So again, think about the maintenance. And if you're building flows like, okay, I see this component and that's the same as this component, and then those are the pieces to do modular design. But focus on more upfront design time because it does take time to think about it and think about the reuse, but overall, spending that extra upfront time, you're going to reap the benefits later on because your maintenance time and all of that will be reduced. So again, think about the reusability. Start off thinking about anything that you're making a component, simplify it. Like it doesn't need to be so many steps. It could be as basic as the retrieve contact ID using the contact name, something simple like that. And iterate over time. So modular design does take time to work on and exercise those muscles so that then eventually it comes naturally. So don't try to do everything modular from the beginning. Sometimes I do still build these bigger flows, but then a requirement comes along, I'm like, oh wait, like I've done this before. That's a good, example of let's build the modular design for that new requirement and then go back to the original piece, right? And then address that tech debt so then it could reap the benefits of that modular design going forward so you're not maintaining multiple copies. So again, it's just an iterative process. All right, so with that, let's recap what we talked about. We talked about why modular design, what are the benefits of it. We talked about how we can build smarter with modular design with 3 scenarios, and then how to empower Agentforce for success, because Agentforce is all about doing these smaller actions, and then tips for modular design success. So this session was inspired by my blog post that is posted on the admin's website. So you can scan that QR code to access the blog. And also highly recommend listening to the Salesforce Admins podcast. We hit, I think, like 2 million downloads most recently. And that's hosted by Mike Gerholt, and he drops a new pod every Thursday. So check that out. And also get inspiration of building your own new agents, right? Check out Agentforce Decoded. This goes to the admin version. There's also Agentforce Decoded developer version. And they're really bite-sized videos, 5 minutes or less, that show you different use cases for agents and also highlights features within Agentforce as well. And we're continually adding new videos as you go along. So that goes to the playlist. And anyone participate in the hackathon that was tied to this? Well, we have a virtual hackathon. So if you didn't win that one, you can sign up for our virtual hackathon using either the QR code or the short link and build an agent and compete for up to $140,000 in prizes. So we upped it for our next one. And with that, thank you for attending the session. I hope you found it helpful. And if you attended in person, please take a moment to go into the Events app and provide us feedback. We do take it personally. I go through all the comments. It helps me improve content for future events. So let me know what you think. And with that, thank you so much and have a great rest of your TDX.